I'm going to be talking about posting and optimizing content on a WordPress website in Volpine Marketing Systems. So today we have a piece of content that we had written, I believe, by Crowd Content. And the topic is Monroe, Georgia injury lawyer or personal injury lawyer. Those are used fairly interchangeably, so I'm not too terribly concerned there. We have this big old long piece of content, and man, it looks pretty darn good. I believe, let's see here, the word count on it, we have about 782 words, so pretty long piece of content. I really like to try to shoot for around 1,000 words, but sometimes the way we'll use crowd content is we'll ask them to give us, 700, 800 words, and then maybe we'll kind of take it from there to go with the extra mile and go for another 1,000, or go up to 1,000, excuse me. That's not always the case, but in this example, I'm just going to kind of leave the content as is. But generally, I would say try to shoot for getting it up and over 1,000 words of content if we can. Typically, the best way to do that is to have them do the bulk of the heavy lifting. And then we kind of take whatever they did and maybe make it a little bit cleaner. Sometimes there's a little bit of work that needs to be done as far as fixing kind of some weird language and stuff like that. It happens. But this content has already been cleaned and edited and is pretty good to go. Now I'm in the back end of one of our clients' websites, Benton and Benton, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here to the pages. So I'm in the back end of WordPress, and then off to the left-hand side here, you'll see pages. Go ahead and hit Add New. When you do that, it will come here. It would have gone to the same place as if I had hit that Add New button there. What I'm going to do here is it's asking for a title. So for this piece of content, I'm going to go get the title, which is Monroe injury lawyer, right? I'm probably going to say Monroe personal injury lawyer just because I think the client itself would appreciate it if the word personal was in there, just because that is kind of the industry term. So I have that in there. That looks pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this is of course using one of our websites that's built on Salient using Visual Composer. I'm going to hit Backend Editor, and what it's going to do is it's going to bring up something that kind of looks like this. Now I'm going to go to My Templates, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this one, which is called Individual Practice Area Page, which in this case, this is exactly what this type of content is. We have certain websites that are built on different frameworks, and so this isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of a solution, sadly, and there's going to be many situations that this doesn't necessarily apply. But in this case, when it's using Visual Composer on a Salient theme on one of a WordPress website that we built, this will generally be the process. So when I did that, it loaded this page, and what this is this is content from a different page that we have written previously. And it kind of looks like, let's see here if I can come here to the preview and take a look at this. By default, it kind of looks something like this. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and hit Save Draft, and I'm going to try that again. Excuse me. So by default, this has not been published, but this is kind of what the preview would look like. I'm going to go ahead and open that up, hit Preview, and it's going to come and open up this page, and it looks something like this. This is not perfect. It looks like there's a little bit of cleaning up that needs to be done here, but that is okay. We can make those changes here. In this video might just go over kind of the general things, and we can kind of figure out what we need to do to fix this little bad boy here. It might be once we officially publish it, this little weird little line here goes away. Let's find out. So the first things we need to do is this kind of section up here. This is kind of called what's kind of called a header kind of a thing. This is not necessarily our H1, but in this case, we're just going to post kind of some of the content in here. So this one, it says car accidents. I'm going to put in here injury lawyer. Injury. Save here, lawyer. Lawyer. Now, if you're ever curious about kind of things that we should be doing, you can come into Asana, come to Processes, and you can find this task called Optimizing a Page. And here's kind of a brief checklist that we need to be doing. Create a URL structure with the keyword in it. Well, you're in luck, because when we decided what the title of the page was, Monroe, Georgia Personal Injury Lawyer, the page itself, the URL, kind of defaulted to be something pretty similar there. But if we need to edit it, And this is where it's done. You know, I could take out the word personal here. I could take out Georgia and just put GA. You know, really kind of either way is fine. I'm okay with this particular setup. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit OK. But it has that keyword in there. Monroe, Georgia, personal injury, lawyer, all that is in there. I think it's fantastic. So we're good to go as far as that's concerned. Now, what we need to change in this particular example is we just need to change out this content here. So that we need to change out that content, and then other than that, we should be pretty good to go, but I'll make sure to go through the checklist to kind of show you everything that you need to do. So go ahead and edit this text block. And, you know, all this content, this is for a different page. It doesn't really apply here. So I'm going to go ahead. In this particular example, I am just going to grab hold of pretty much everything here except that title thing. I'll kind of talk about why I'm doing that in just a moment. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to go text. And let's see, to keep this easier, I'll just go visual. And then boom, we have this in here. This is looking pretty good. We do need to make sure that we have this H1 in there. I didn't just copy and paste it directly in there just because sometimes if we have like these little lines here, it might come in a little weird. So I'm going to actually just grab it from, excuse me, I apologize, I'm kind of everywhere here. Hit save changes here. I'm going to grab it from right here and I'm going to add it to this content. Now I'm going to go into the code. This is where it might get a little tricky for us, but this is what we need to do. We need to put what's called an H1 in here. So to add an H1 tag, it's literally just this, this like greater than or less than sign, kind of this sign here, H1, and then have kind of this closing thing, that kind of other caret sign kind of a thing. Then over here, we're going to do almost the same thing. It has H1 in there, but has this backslash in there. It's just a little bit of code. And this code is just kind of saying like, hey, this is where this particular element ends. And I'm going to paste the Monroe, Georgia personal injury lawyer in there. That's looking good. Now, if you kind of scroll down here, it kind of has this span, style equals font weight, blah, 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 blah. This doesn't really matter, but when we paste it in by default from a Word document, this is kind of often what comes in is it kind of brings in the span. That's okay. I'm not a huge fan of it, but really is okay. So then what we need to do, so that's kind of the first thing, right? We've kind of gone through this checklist. The URL structure, we're good to go there. If we need to nest it, this is meaning if this page is one that really needs to go underneath another page, then what we'd do is we'd come over here and select whatever page it needs to go underneath. In this particular example, we really don't have to do that, so I'm not going to worry about that particular one. We made sure to add an H1 with the keyword in it. That's fantastic. And now we need to add H2s and H3s, H4s, H5s. They just kind of keep going as needed. Now what these are, here's an example of, here's the H1 right here on this other page. And here's an example of an H2, consequences of a car accident, right? So this is beneficial because this H2 element has the keyword car accident in there. And then this is probably an H3. So this is kind of, as you can kind of see, like they kind of just fit inside of each other, right? The H1 is for the entire page. This is a section of this particular page. And it kind of just talks about like the downfalls or the negative things that someone could encounter if they're in a car accident. Injuries, right? Financial constraints, makes sense. Diminished quality of life. Okay, all that makes sense. So here's kind of this next section. Here's another H2, right? So this new header, this new section of content, here's another H2. As you can see here, they've done well as far as car accident lawyer, or kind of one of those main keywords is actually in here again. And then, so this is this H2, here's an H3, here's another H2, and here's an H3, H3, and these all kind of fit underneath there, if that makes sense. Let me know if this have any questions about this. Here's another H2, because this is another kind of section of that content. So as we're kind of pasting this content, you know, we can kind of see here like practice areas. And then we have kind of within that, you can see that this one is an H2. Here's an H3, 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 H2, because this is a new section, right? I hope that all kind of makes sense. But when we copy and paste this in here, by default, it will actually have a lot of the H2s and stuff like that in here. So this just says practice areas. You know, for my sake, or for the sake of this particular content, I want to add another use of this keyword in here potentially. So I'm going to say personal injury practice areas. It's a little redundant, but once again, I just want injury in there. For this particular example, I'm going to take out this B. This makes it bold. We're going to talk about styling another time. Here's this H3. Once again, you can kind of see it has it kind of by default brought in this bold. That is not a huge deal. For the sake of this example, I am going to be taking it out, but you don't necessarily always need to. You can leave that in there, but I'm going to take it out. So these are good because it talks about truck accidents. These are all types of personal injury types of things. So yeah, making sure that these are all personal injury related to. And here's this H2, personal injury FAQs. So yeah, this is pretty well done. Really, do I have a case? Not bad. Once again, I'm going to take out the B here. But other than that, pretty good. Yeah, everything's looking good here. Do I need a personal injury lawyer? Why do I need a personal injury lawyer? Excuse me. Very good. So the bottom line. So this one says the bottom line. You know, that's not bad. It's not a bad way to kind of end this piece of contact, but or piece of content. But I'm going to say contact Monroe's injury lawyers today. Once again, I have Monroe in there. I have injury lawyers. Those are the keywords that we're trying to get in this content. So that's why it's helpful. And then hit save. So now that I have that, I have the content in place. All these other portions of the page are universal, or they're kind of used on these different pages. So that's already in there. That's kind of what this little section is here. So we're pretty good to go as far as that goes. Now here's kind of where we might edit it. This section down here, this is Yoast SEO. This is a plugin. And this is where we can kind of make some edits on this page. So if we need to edit the slug or the URL of this page, we could do it here, or you could do it here up the top, right? So there's two different places that you can do that. By default, it's going to pull in the title of this page, and then we need to edit what's called, the meta title and meta description. So the SEO title, if I wanted something to be done differently, I could just kind of have this be completely custom, and I could just have it be, you know, I could dictate whatever this says. For this example, it's actually pulling in the title of this page. So Monroe, Georgia, personal injury lawyer, and then a separator, which in this case is a dash, and then the site title, which is Benton and Benton, right? So by default, that's kind of doing that. But if I wanted something custom in here, then I could edit that to be whatever I wanted to. I'm pretty happy with what was in there, so I'm just going to leave it as is. So this is the meta title. Now this section here is a meta description. If we leave this empty by default, it's just going to pull in kind of some snippet from the content, which can be fine, but in general, I would like it to be a little bit more compelling. So, you know, we don't need to get crazy with this thing, but I would like it just to kind of, I don't know, have their phone number in there or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to copy this phone number, and I'm going to say something like, you know, if you've been injured, you need to call Monroe's best injury lawyers at Benton and Benton today. Call for a free consultation. I just want there to be some kind of a call to action, have it be at least a little bit more compelling than kind of what will be pulled in by default here. So that is kind of what I would do as far as that goes. So let me see here. We've created a custom URL structure. We've determined if we need to nest it. In this example, we don't. We've added an H1 with the keyword in it. We've added H2s and H3s as needed. We've created a meta title and a meta description. The only thing we have left to do is we could potentially add images with alt text. Now, This particular one, like we don't really have many images on here, but I would absolutely recommend that we do have them. So right now we have this car accident one up here, which is not bad, but it would be great if we could maybe add or at least change the image that's in here. Let's see here. Has anyone been injured? Is there one in here that might look a little bit better? Nope, I don't think so. I think we might just leave it kind of as is for now. But you could go and you could find a different image, and then you could add what's called the alt text. So if I was to add this as a new image, obviously this is a poor example because it's already on here. Where I would edit it is right here, this alt text. So I'm inserting this new image. In this case, I'm not adding a new image, but if I was, I would come in here and I would literally say Monroe Injury Lawyers, and I would misspell it or something like that, right? And then set that image and it would have that alt text. It just gives Google a little bit more to consider. It's just another chance for them to see what this page is all about. That's kind of what alt text is all about. For this example, I'm just going to go ahead and close that as if I didn't change anything there. And if I come back in here, I should be able to kind of see that image is still in place. I'm going to go ahead and now that I've done all this, I'm going to hit publish. So boom, it is now published. If I come here to this page, let's see if that one little thing was fixed. Remember on the preview how it had like that little weird piece of content? So it looks like we need to fix that. So to be able to do that, I believe that we come down here and let me take a look at one of these other pages. Practice area pages. I'm going to come here to this page. Just kind of see what was done here. Okay. So yep, you can kind of see that it was a little wonky on ours, that there was like this little snippet or this little area there that has kind of this weird kind of space there. It doesn't look terrible, but it also doesn't look great, right? So we can fix that, we can do better. So the way that we do that is we come down here to the bottom, and on this particular one, it says force transparency on navigation. Go ahead and select that. Let me take a look at this other page, see if there are other settings that we need to implement as well. Looks like we're pretty good. The default text is set there. So we should be pretty good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and hit update here. And once this is done loading, I'm gonna wait for this little circle thing to relax, chill out for a little bit. Looks like we're good. I'm gonna hit refresh. And voila, you see I got rid of that little thing there. So anyways, I hope this is helpful. I hope this kind of helps you as you're trying to walk through and you're optimizing a piece of content, that we can kind of see how we can be doing this in a way that would be helpful as far as what Google considers good. So thank you so much for watching and have a great one. Bye.